If the friendship breaks down between Mike and his best friend, then you ain't got no business being friends with your best friend's girl or your former best friend's girl. Like, you really don't. Suits season 1, episode 3, Inside Track, 42 minutes of Batman and Robin. Netflix, let's run it back. Welcome back to my channel. It's Liv, living life with locks and learning lessons along the way. And this episode was so smooth. It had all these glimmers of governance in there as well, from mentions of boardroom politics to bylaws and terms of reference, reading things and ensuring that you're following process and procedure and the way in which things have been outlined in the business documentation and everything like that. Oh, it was so good. Let's kind of start to unpack the episode with how it starts. Now, what I didn't mention in my previous video for season 1, episode 2, that episode was the first time that you actually had the opening credits music, I'd say. I don't think it was in the pilot episode, but definitely in season 1, episode 2, you had the opening music in terms of like the opening credits, the opening scene when it's like telling you who the actors are and all that kind of stuff. But just before that, and this is kind of the style that this particular show, Suits, takes, is that you may get a scene first, or as I said in the previous video about setting the tone of the episode with some sort of situational experience dynamic between the law firm and one of their clients or a case that they're on, and then it will cut to the opening scene. And when you really start to listen to the lyrics, I'd say it wasn't until the second time or third time, maybe, I can't remember exactly, but the second or third time that I was watching Suits from the beginning that I really started to listen to the music. So obviously when I was first watching the series, like the very first time, everything was new, so I was kind of following, I was more engrossed in the storylines of each episode, and then I would say would you call it a subsidiary storyline, but like the storylines that kind of run through different episodes, multiple episodes and multiple seasons when it's about the main characters. So you have like individual episodes that have a storyline that's very clearly defined but contained within that episode, and then you have other episodes where they link together based on a main character story arc or storyline, or someone who comes in for a set number of episodes and then departs at some point, which we'll see later on in the series. And so I would say I wasn't really focused on the other elements of the production when I was first watching, because I was so invested in just kind of understanding who the main characters were and all the things that they kind of experience for the very first time. But when I'm watching it a second time or a third time, I'm thinking about the music that's used in individual scenes, or something that is kind of like a theme tune, which is what the opening credits music is. It's thematic, because I watch things with subtitles. I was actually looking at the lyrics coming up on the screen for the opening music, for the theme music for Suits, and I was like, what are these lyrics? Like, they're so wacky and weird. What are you actually singing about? It's almost like I had the tune in my head and I had never thought, up until that point, I had never thought about what I'm actually singing. You know when you don't know the lyrics but you feel like you know the words, so you just start to make up words for the songs anyway. That's what I was doing for a while. Anyway, so this episode starts off with another case. Mike is running late. Mike is on his bike because that's how he travels. The reason why I say it's like a Batman and Robin kind of feel in this episode is because, one, Harvey and Mike do make a lot of movie references across the series. It's like their thing to make movie references. I think they did a Godfather reference in the pilot episode, but there was definitely a reference to Batman and Robin. It's quite subtle though, in my opinion, in my way of digesting this episode, because Mike is on a bike in the opening, and then the camera kind of cuts to where he's riding to, where he's heading, which is where Harvey is, and the name of that building is called Gotham Car Club. And then Harvey is in there talking about cars and how much he loves cars and everything. So Mike is running late, but just based on those three details, Mike on a bike, Gotham Car Club, Harvey talking about how much he loves engines, I'm thinking, bet Gotham, because it's like dark as well. It's dark in New York City. And I would say based on the Harvey and Mike dynamic up to this point and what I know of the series moving forward, out of the two, Harvey's like the Batman role and Mike is his sidekick as Robin. Robin rides a motorbike, if I know correctly, a motorcycle. So then having Mike on a bike kind of makes that link. And then Batman has the Batmobile, and obviously you've got Harvey talking about cars. He's really into cars. You only ever see Harvey drive a car, whereas Mike, you never see him drive a car. You always see him on a bike or talking about his bike or referencing his bike or man's on foot. So that was like the first opening details that I penciled down for this episode. Getting further into the juice of the episode now, or the meat, I should say, the meat of the episode. With this case, the case that they're working on in this episode, it shows how personal these lawyers can get sometimes. They blur the lines between personal and professional in their own unique way. So as we saw in a previous episode, Harvey was trying to teach Mike how to focus less about caring about the client and more about winning for the client, which is Harvey's way of showing that he cares without showing that he cares, right? In this episode, Harvey cares more about the company than he probably should in the first instance. You understand why, but at the same time, throughout this episode, you kind of like try and figure out whether you should see it from Harvey's side or see it from a non-involved, detached perspective. Because we have McKernan Motors, which is the name of the corporation that Harvey is the lawyer for. McKernan Motors has lost their CEO. Their CEO, Avery McKernan, passed away a few months prior to the timeline of this episode. And so a new CEO is required for this corporation. And so then this Robert Strensland guy, I think that's how you say his surname, is the interim CEO, and he wants to make a business decision that changes or goes against what Harvey and Avery, who turns out to be the first client that Harvey brought to the firm, which actually links to the previous episode. So the previous episode, Harvey was telling Mike about how he's going to earn his place at the adult table. Mike wasn't allowed in the boardroom and to be a part of certain decisions, etc., etc. And then he also mentions that he didn't get to be a part of, so this is all in season 1, episode 2. Harvey didn't get to be in the boardroom at the adult table until he brought his first client to the firm. Now, in season 1, episode 2, Mike was successful in bringing a client to the firm, Pearson Hardman. And so in this episode, what you hear is that McKernan Motors, led by Avery McKernan, was Harvey's first client to bring to the firm. So this is the client. This shows why there's such a personal involvement or investment in what this company does and how it impacts billables short-term and long-term, and the relationship that Harvey has to the client being the corporation, regardless of who the head of the organization is, because CEOs can change, because this was Harvey's ticket into the boardroom to have a seat at the adult table. Throughout this episode, Mike is actually allowed in the boardroom. He is actually allowed to be a part of the adult table decisions and discussions and decisions because of the client that he brought to the firm in the previous episode. You could kind of watch this episode in isolation. If you want to understand the timeline and the development and the growth of the main characters, watching episode 2 of season 1 and listening to the dialogue and the exchange, and then hearing the dialogue and exchange in season 1 episode 3, which is this episode that we're talking about, you pick up on those nuggets or those things that kind of piece together the jigsaw. And it's like, that makes sense, because Mike was shut out of the boardroom in episode 2, but in episode 3 he's invited in, or he's allowed to be in the room, in the space, and make moves as a lawyer because he has done what is needed to take things to the next level, which was cool. Let's talk about the adult table a little bit more, and the fact that Harvey got a promotion to senior partner. So in a law firm, from what I'm picking up from Suits, or what I have picked up from Suits, and other legal dramas I've watched before, but particularly for Suits, you have managing partner who is one of the named partners. So you have the named partners at the top. That's like who the law firm is named after. It's important to know this because in Suits, the number of times this law firm changes its name because the leadership constantly changes, it makes you wonder what's in their bylaws, what's allowed. And that does come up in future episodes where they talk about whose name can go up and what order the name goes up, and how long different named partners have legal rights to, I don't know, dividends and decisions and all that kind of stuff once they leave, whilst they're there. There's just so many different complexities that are unpicked or revealed throughout the different episodes in the different seasons, so across the series. But basically speaking, from the beginning, you have the named partners, and one of those is the managing partner. So in this case, the named partners are Pearson and Hardman. Now, Daniel Hardman, that I know is coming up, he hasn't entered the series yet at this point, but I know he's coming. So you've got Pearson, Jessica Pearson, who is not only a named partner, but a managing partner because she is managing the business. She's managing the firm. Then you'll have the senior partners. Then you have the junior partners, which Lewis Litt is. And that's why he feels some type of way about Harvey getting a promotion and not him, because he feels like his billables are higher. And so therefore it should be based on billables. And Harvey's like, it's based on what I can do. So don't feel like you're anything like me. And then you have the associates. And then within the associates, you've got first year associates, second year associates, third year, fourth year, fifth year associates. That is my assumption because I know that there's a character called Katrina who comes in as a fifth year associate. So that's why I know there's at least 5 years of associate levels, if that makes sense. Or 5 levels within the associate labeling or part of the organization. So Harvey got his promotion in the pilot, and senior partners have to buy into the firm, which you learn from Donna. Harvey and Donna, they've been a duo for a while. They've been on this journey together. What you actually find is that they know each other very well and they have a close relationship, but you don't know how close in this episode or in this part of the season. It kind of builds throughout the series. But when Harvey is a part of the meeting to finalize his promotion to senior partner, Jessica kind of plays a prank on him that he's expected to put up his buy-in money on that day, which is $500,000. It's $500,000. And so Harvey's a bit shook, a bit taken aback to think, yo, I didn't know it was due today. Like, that's kind of putting me on the spot. And Jessica's like, well, you should have had the money. You knew what the cost would be. You can't just be walking around the offices saying, I'm senior partner, and you haven't actually sealed the deal with the fee. It's all a joke. It's a prank. But apparently there's some sort of process that they have to go through. So it's not like on this day, check please. It's a case of this is when this is ratified and then this is the next step. So it's like a step-by-step process. When he leaves the room, the boardroom, so the meeting is adjourned and everyone goes about their business, but then you see at some point in the offices that Harvey actually passes the check over to Jessica to say, look, I always had it. I had it from the time that I set my sights on being a senior partner, which teaches you or reveals to you the life lesson around manifestation. It's one thing to say you want something, but you have to actively work towards achieving it. Otherwise, it's just a dream, it's just a wish. But if there's no investment of time, energy, and effort, and sometimes even money into something that you want to see come to fruition, then it's not going to come to fruition because you haven't done the part of manifestation that's necessary, which is to actually put habits in place or to make moves that will allow you to achieve what it is that you wish to achieve. It's recognizing that you have to do an audit of self and think, okay, in order to get to that goal in life, or in order to reach that destination, or in order to experience that or to move closer to that, what do I need to let go of, or what do I need to do? How do I need to transform or evolve in order to be able to get there? You do see Donna hand Harvey the check. She hands him something. Unless you're really good at picking up details, you don't know what it is until Harvey hands that same envelope to Jessica. But you actually do see Donna hand it to Harvey, and Harvey makes a comment about sleeping with it, Donna sleeping with it under her pillow or something like that. So it shows how close Harvey and Donna are, and the trust that they have established between the two or between themselves. Because even if it is true that Harvey wrote that check and gave it to Donna to look after, that's a level of trust you gotta have to give someone a check of $500,000, like $500,000 to just sleep with, you know? Because usually when you're manifesting something, you have that thing yourself. Either you're looking at the check yourself, or you're looking at the list of the things that you want to achieve yourself. But he gave it to Donna, which makes you think that Donna and Harvey are actually closer than you may initially realize. But they are super close. That was something that I found extremely intriguing. There was a lot of depth to quite a shallow exchange. When I say shallow, I don't mean in terms of like insignificant. I mean in terms of there wasn't a lot of discussion in there, but if you piece it together, if you slow it down, if you rewind, if you pause to think, you're like, rah, like there's actually more to this than just envelope, keep it moving. What is the significance of those exchanges, and what can I learn from that? Now, talking about personal relationships, this episode was also quite messy. Jenny, I cannot stand. So Jenny is Trevor's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend or whatever, and Trevor is Mike's best friend. So with Jenny, it's clear, it is so clear, it was clear from episode 1 that there's some sort of chemistry or attraction between Mike and Jenny. But me, someone who doesn't believe in or doesn't agree with cheating, adultery, or being unfaithful, like even in a fictional series, those things bother me. And so I find Jenny quite inappropriate. The way that she's engaged with Mike up until now, so not exclusively in this episode, but up until now, so in these first 3 episodes of season 1, like the lingering when she hugs him, trying to make eye contact, or like gazing at Mike and stuff like that. Even the way Mike greets her and says goodbye to her, it's a bit too personal. And as a female, I can see how Jenny is actually flirting with Mike, either intentionally or unintentionally. I think it's intentional, but she's flirting with Mike. You see some level of restraint because she doesn't go all out, but she is definitely aware of what she's doing. Like, she's aware of how she is communicating through body language towards Mike, and I don't like it. Like, I don't like it. I don't like I'm just not a fan of her. Now, I don't know how long she stays in the series. Not very long. Whilst her and Mike do end up together for a brief period, not for very long, because Miss Zane, Rachel Zane, will be Mike's woman. But for now, it's like these two. It's messy. It really is messy, because technically Jenny is still with Trevor, because it's only towards the end of episode 3 that Jenny starts to rethink her relationship with Trevor, because Trevor is still dealing drugs, and she doesn't like that, because obviously this is something that she's found out very recently, and she doesn't like that, so she is likely to end it with him soon. We'll see when I watch episode 4, because I'm trying to remember exactly in which episode things happen. I know they happen, but it's in which episode things happen. Her appearances in this episode is her turning up to Mike's unannounced. Now, I don't like when people do that. I really do not like when people turn up unannounced or invade my space in any way. Like, for example, if you're not like in my inner circle, in my intimate circle, then don't just pick up the phone and call me. Like, give me a heads up, because there's no guarantee I'm gonna answer it, because you're trying to get at me in this very moment and I may not be available to you. So the way she just turned up unannounced and then slaps him uncalled for, the audacity of her. Like, Mike doesn't owe her anything. You are his best friend's woman. You are his best friend's girl. He does not owe you anything. Y'all should be very careful with your interactions with each other, because y'all not meant to be having such a personal, close relationship, especially whilst you're still with his best friend. I don't understand people who date their friends, exes, or whatever. Like, that's just a bit too close to home. Like, that's a no. But putting my personal feelings on that love triangle aside, even though you see more as to why Jenny and Mike have such a comfort with each other, should I say. There's some backstory to that, but it doesn't mean I condone it. I really do not condone. She turns up unannounced and she's huffing and puffing why Mike just walked away, why he left them both. Cut Trevor off. Rightly so, because Trevor's a bad influence. But in cutting Trevor off, Mike also cut Jenny off. But as far as I'm concerned, Mike don't owe Jenny any of his time, attention, or anything when he's no longer engaging with his best friend. Because as far as I'm concerned, Mike should only be engaging with his best friend's girl via his best friend. So if the relationship breaks down, if the friendship breaks down between Mike and his best friend, then you ain't got no business being friends with your best friend's girl or your former best friend's girl. Like, you really don't. So I don't know why Jenny getting hot and steamy. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like her. There's very few people that I feel some type of way about. There is one moment where I like what she does, but that's in a later episode when she actually helps Mike. But outside of that, bye. Bye, Jenny. Bye. Parallel to the main case with McKernan Motors, the change in CEO, Harvey's trying to, because Harvey doesn't like the direction that the interim CEO wants to take the corporation. And you got to watch the episode in order to find out all the details. And then you can come back here, because I'm not going to spoil everything. I'm not going to detail absolutely everything that happens, but I'm going to give you the meat in terms of like things to look out for or things that I spotted. So you can go and watch the episode and then come back and then we can discuss in the comments or something. Happy to do that. Harvey is headhunting for a CEO, and one of the people he considers is a guy called Dominic Barone, I think, and he is the head of production. He's like the manager of the production side of McKernan Motors. So he really understands the engine of cars and he's really passionate about that. He's the heart and soul of this corporation, you could say, because that's what the reputation is centered around in that corporation. It's about the engine. At first, Harvey doesn't think that Dominic is a good choice because he doesn't feel like he can really handle the true business side of moving an organization of this size and this value forward. But because Harvey believes that the engine is the reputation and therefore that shouldn't be compromised, the best person to lead the corporation now that the previous CEO is no longer there should be the person who understands that. This is why I say that there's elements glimmers of governance in there because you have references to reading what is said in the business documentation. And I mention governance because I'm in education governance, that's one of the things that I do, being a school governor here in the UK. And so you understand that some things just cannot happen the way you would want because of the way things are written. So for example, they were talking about almost like the lead time or the time allowance that's needed, or when you make decisions about new CEOs, etc. And they mentioned something about the decision cannot be made until the next fiscal quarter. And so it's knowing that you can't just change a CEO in 24 hours. There's things that are written. This is why they say policy and procedure, to ensure that there's rules to follow, basically, and ensuring that there's no undercutting and everyone's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, as it were. So it allows you to ensure that the corporation, the business, the organization stands regardless of the people who are in it. Everyone who comes in or leaves abides by the same practice, and having things written is necessary, hence why having a lawyer, having legal frameworks helps to stabilize an organization. The only thing is, though, those bylaws were written or involved Harvey. So you get lawyers involved when you're writing a document or something that may be called upon at any particular time, and you want a lawyer to know that there's no loopholes, or that things are in place the way that benefits the organization or whatever you're writing the legal docs for, etc. Harvey instructs Mike to find something in the bylaws, which Harvey wrote, that is going to help them maneuver this corporation, this case, in the way that they want. So in this case, it's not really about one corporation against another. It's internal affairs that are happening. It's a jostling for leadership. And this is where Jessica kind of checks Harvey and says, you're getting too involved. We are a law firm. We support the client. And right now, the client, McKernan Motors, is led by Robert Streisand. So if Robert Streisand wants to do this, that, and the third to the corporation, you need to support that decision. What Harvey's saying is, McKernan Motors is my client, not the head that's running it. And so therefore, because I think what was being decided by the previous CEO of McKernan Motors, I'm going to try and find an alternative CEO to get the interim CEO out so that he doesn't become the official CEO when the decision's made by the board in the next fiscal quarter meeting. And so Harvey turns this thing into one, personal, because it's about what he wants, because he says that he's emotionally attached to himself. He actually says something like that, words like that in the episode. But it then becomes an internal battle. So it's not about this corporation going up against another. It's an internal case where Harvey is getting involved, where he's stepping in. But you can understand why. So I'd say what Jessica is teaching Harvey yet again is the differences between being strategic and being operational. And you do see a lot of that. I mean, I feel as an individual that governance can create a blurred line or a fine line between the two, especially if you're new to governance, new to corporate governance, or you're new to governance in any format. It's knowing what side of the coin you should be on, or side of the pitch or side of the court that you should be on in terms of your questioning or what you get involved in. And so that is quite apparent throughout this episode, because whilst it's a strategic move to position the right person for the job as CEO of McKernan Motors in this case, or in this example, it's still an operational decision, because Harvey's not actually a board member, but he's trying to influence the board based on his own personal wants and desires. Although you can understand why he would want that, because there was a part where Harvey and Jessica are having an exchange, and Jessica's trying to say you should be doing this because it's going to stabilize billables right now and ensure that we don't get fired. But Harvey's like, if we make that decision, then billables will drop within 5 years. And Jessica almost like dismisses that and says, it doesn't matter what happens in 5 years. I'm thinking about what happens now, which in my personal and professional opinion, I was like, that was a bit shallow of her as a leader, because technically you should be thinking about long term. Yes, you need to think about the impact on your bottom line now, but how is it that in that exchange, Harvey had a more long-term stability view on things and Jessica almost shut it down? So that kind of made me pause. But besides that, I can see both sides. And then obviously outside of the corporation, the client, McKernan Motors, and the strategic operational landscape that you have to navigate there, or that Harvey's navigating there as a lawyer, there's also the strategic and operational dynamic that is trying to be figured out here in terms of in the law firm Pearson Hardman, because Jessica's teaching Harvey again, and this happens a lot, about how to not be so self-absorbed or self-centered or being very solo, and how you have to go beyond yourself. You have to think of the bigger picture. You need to think beyond you as an individual, especially now that you're a senior partner and you've bought into the firm. She actually says at one point, you are the firm now. So it's not just Harvey Specter, the number one closer, the best closer. You've now got to think about how your decisions impact the entire organization, because you're now a key component of that structure, that organizational structure. And so therefore the moves you make could detrimentally affect the wider organization, the name, the reputation, and its stability. Your decisions no longer just impact you. So I guess it's like the difference between taking a bullet and a grenade going off, or a bomb going off. So a bomb could go off and take down the whole building, whereas a bullet could just go to one person. And I only just thought about that, and Harvey actually makes reference to, you know, like if someone pulls a gun on you, then you should be thinking about all the other ways in which you can outsmart that person. He has these conversations with Mike. It's all a part of his teaching tactics and techniques, I guess. That was all in this episode, which gave me a lot of food for thought as I was watching. It was kind of neat how they kind of dropped in the whole good cop, good lawyer, bad lawyer, using Mike and Harvey when they were trying to convince the production manager to put himself forward, Dominic, as the new CEO. So that was kind of just sprinkled in there. What I will finish on, the last point I will make about this episode, is around the relationship between Mike and Rachel brewing. So Rachel actually helps Mike out with the rookie dinner because she is well versed in food, and she helps him with that, which earlier in the episode you find out from Harvey that it's important to think about things like that. It's not just about doing a good job at work, but it's the way in which you establish and develop and build relational capital, and you do that through your interpersonal skills and through things that happen or interactions outside of workspaces or specific client cases, etc. And so Rachel helps Mike with choosing a venue and putting the menu together. And what I love about this is how Mike sticks it to Lewis, and the fact that Harvey covers the bill without having to tell Mike that he's going to cover the bill. He just does that for him so that Mike doesn't need to worry about the actual financial implications of putting this rookie dinner together. He can just do what he's supposed to do, and it's like, Harvey will take care of you. That's why I say Harvey is very caring. He is more caring than he likes to let on. Whereas Lewis can be a pain. I mean, at some point in the series, you really do start to change your view of him and you understand the complexities of his character. But for the most part, he's annoying, particularly in the earlier episodes. So until you learn more about Lewis, he just feels like a bug that you just want to flick away. But I'd say I do like how Rachel supports Mike in establishing himself in the office through these kind of soft skills and social experiences, or creating these social spaces for others to evolve and connect, which is what I believe the Rocky Dinner allows the associates to do, which is to kind of connect with each other outside of the office, because they have these really long work days, work schedules, and so therefore being able to socialize can be difficult with a very demanding career. But I believe that that's what was being taught, that part is important as well. So there was really a lot of time management and legalese, ego, pride, teamwork, strategy, organizational structures and maneuvers going on in this episode. So it was very deep. So I hope you enjoyed the commentary. If you want to watch more, if you want to see more, if you want me to do more, then please like, comment and subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss anything, because we are continuing with season 1 and then we're going to move on to season 2 and then season 3 and then season 4 and so on and so on and so on. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching another video on Must Watch Gotta Learn. You can find more commentary for Suits season 1 on my channel. And if you want to be the first to watch any new season or series, then subscribe to my channel. On Must Watch Gotta Learn, we turn our favorite fictional TV series into real life lessons. It has never been more fun to binge watch a rerun.